Alright, the next thing we need to do is establish a silhouette of the character. So in this case, a skull, and we're only going to work on the top half of the skull, would look like this. At its lowest level. And please, by all means, do not move these vertices the same exact thing as mine. This is not the intention of this video. This intention of the video is to show you what tools I'm using to sculpt out this skull. If you follow along with every vertice movement, it'll take you a lifetime. That's not the intention of these videos. It's just the tools I'm showing you and the procedure I take to show you how I build up detail. Okay? So to any student that does that, and I know you do it, I see it all the time, don't do that. You'll never learn anything that way. Okay, so the silhouette looks good on the side, right? But the silhouette doesn't look so good on the front half of it. So I'm going to turn that more into something like this. And then when I don't have enough polygons to move around, then I hit Shift D. Now I have enough to move around, and now I'm going to move around some more. But I'm going to make sure that the silhouette is very smooth. At no time do I go like this and try to squish up polygons. I want to keep this as smooth as possible until I reach enough polygons to put in some detail. So this building up detail is very important. Anytime that you think you're getting too much, you hold Shift, and then that will allow you to smooth out the form. Shift D again. Okay, now I have enough that I might be able to make a harsher change in this. So I'll squish in that area. Bulk up this area. Think of this as a bean. And then maybe give it what would be the area where the cheekbones are at. Again, not a lot of detail here, just harsher changes. Shift D. And once I get started on a level where I can start sculpting, that's when I use a wax brush. So let's get just a couple more of these well-established levels before we start doing that, though. So you notice I'm pushing that in and I'm bulking this out. Holding Shift will allow you to kind of wean that back if needed. Again, if I make too harsh of a change, I just hold Shift, and that will smooth out those polys. Can make a little bit more of a landmark there. Okay, Shift D. And sometimes I over-exaggerate things, and I can always bring it back to more of a realistic skull a little bit later as I move more topology around. So now I'm going up in levels, and I'll probably end up to about right here. and then start putting in some major forms. And one of the things I use all the time is the wax brush. Okay, so let's start by adding, a nice area here. I think that's bumping out. Yep. And I'll go like that. Then I'll go like this. Then I'll go like this. So kind of like a goggle. And I'll treat it like I'm just kind of sketching here. And this is much like how you kind of build up detail with regular clay too. You put these slabs of wax down or clay, and then after the fact you go in and say, okay, well, now I need to subtract them out. So we got that. These are really loose right now. There's no perfect anatomy just yet. This is just to get this stuff out in the open and some distance between that and the original form. Holding shift will kind of smooth all this out. You don't want a whole lot of harsh changes just yet. You just want form buildup. Now holding control, you can subtract. Okay, so I'm just going to do that real quick. I'm going to subtract that pretty far back and hold shift to kind of smooth that out. I'll put a landmark right here. Again, hold shift to kind of smooth those two forms. I'll put a landmark right here and smooth that out. In fact, I'll suck that back just a little bit more too. At the very bottom, I'll put a landmark in of right here, right here. Might be a little big on the bottom, but that's okay. Okay, now I'll use my grab tool a little bit more, and I'll lower it down and start working on the silhouette. But I have these landmarks now. You can see them because I bumped those out. That's very important. And I'll push that back in just a little bit right there. Kind of round this up a little bit more. So this is where that reference really comes in handy if you haven't built a skull before. And I look at it at all angles very closely to see if things are lining up. So this needs to come back some. And this is the hard part with students, because, you know, I'm looking at the outside edge. Students look here. Don't look here. Look at the outside of the edge. Look at the form change next to the other form change in the 3D view. So I see, I'm looking at this one compared to this one. I'm looking at this one compared to that one. A straight view, I'm looking at the straightness of this form compared to the roundness of this form. And again, you know, if you've never built a skull before, these are the landmarks you need to kind of practice at every once in a while. Just establish some kind of true form. It doesn't have to be perfect every time. There are variations of skull. Different shapes, different everything, but I would say that it at least needs the basics of it first. And sometimes I'll over-exaggerate things just to tone it down. So this is where I'm going to leave it right now, and I'll split this video and meet you back in the next video.